I'd like to call to order the May 20th, 2014 meeting of the Bowling Green Board of Commissioners and invite you to stand if you wish as we offer invocation, and then Commissioner Hill will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance after that. Father, thank you for such a wonderful day in Bowling Green, for all the people who live here, the opportunity to express our opinions and voting. Thank you, Lord, for directing us as you have, and we pray that you'll offer that guidance as we consider the items before us tonight. We pray that we'll honor you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And just as a reminder, if anybody would like to provide the invocation, please contact somebody on the commission or the clerk's office and we'll get you on the list. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Denny?
Here. Commissioner Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Waltrip?
Here.
Commissioner Williams?
Here.
Mayor Wilkerson?
Here. Mr. Febo, do we have any awards or recognitions tonight? I'm sure. Anyone on the commission have an item I'd like to bring up? Do we have any comments?
Yes, one comment,
Yes, sir.
please. There'll be a need for a late file. We've been approached by our friends at the Chamber about an incentive they want us to provide or help to provide, so we thought it was important to get it here, and I'd like to add it to the agenda.
Yeah, I apologize for not reminding about that. It passed over at the county.
And Mayor will
this
be
week,
sponsor.
So
okay.
moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Denning?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. Approval of the minutes for the regular meeting on May 6, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Waltrip. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Denning?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. We have a time in the meeting for public comments if anyone has something to say to provide to the commission that's not on tonight's agenda. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the second reading of Ordinance 2014, number 8.
Ordinance relating to budget amendment. Ordinance approving amendment number 3 to the City of Bowling Green, Kentucky annual operating budget for fiscal year 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Waltrip, second by Hill. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Denning?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-83.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointments of Colton S. Bilhards, Dwight C. Bushall, Kathleen W. Orndorff, and Victor M. Vergara to the position of police officer in the police department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Waltrip. Mr. DeFebo.
Thank you, Mayor. We have right now 3 vacancies and expect another vacancy in the police department. Given the amount of time it takes for the training of new officers, we thought it would be good to get our complement hired and plugged into the training curve as quickly as possible. So we went through the total procurement of new officers, and we're here tonight to recommend 4. And you can look out in the audience and see their eager faces. So that's pretty nice.
Understand right here, if y'all wouldn't mind standing, I think we'll let the audience take a look at you to know who you are, and congratulations. I think Commissioner Denning has a standard question for him, don't you?
Yes, what we normally do, and I'm sure the chief didn't tell you about it, is that we request of each cadet before they raise their right hand, and we give an okay, they have to give a 2-minute speech right here. And who wants to start?
They learn quick not to volunteer.
We're glad to have you.
I will tell you that 2 of them are 2 former students of mine, and I won't tell you which 2 right now.
Until after they pass probation, right?
Probation.
Congratulations to you. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Denning?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Waltrip?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Wilkerson?
Yes, congratulations. Municipal Order 2014-84.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointment of R. Scott Hunt to the position of Electrical Inspector in the Neighborhood and Community Services Department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Denning, second by Hill. Mr.
As the
DeFebo.
commission knows, we had a recent vacancy in our electrical inspector position. It's a very specialized position. It's not easy to acquire the skills necessary. We went out to a full press on trying to get a person to fill this position. We were lucky. Mr. R. Scott Hunt is not only accredited and state certified, but he has prior experience and managerial experience. I believe Mr. Hunt is here, and we recommend him for appointment.
Mr. Hunt, we'll offer you that same opportunity for everybody to stand and make the speech, Joe. Is that right?
Yeah, everybody tonight is making the speech.
Congratulations. Do you have any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, congratulations to you as well. Municipal Order 2014-85.
Municipal order approving the probationary appointment of Michael B. Mitchum to the position of Public Works Technician in the Public Works Department.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
With the retirement of Jackie Edwards, we thought it was an opportunity for us to look at this position and to reconfigure it to meet our current needs. Our current needs are primarily focused to project management. We went out to a full press for applicants. We had 14. We interviewed 4, and from this process, we were fortunate to get Michael Mitchum. He has prior managerial experience as well as a college degree and 30 years experience in inspections and projects. I believe Michael is here.
He is. Would you stand so we can congratulate you as well? Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, congratulations again. Municipal Order 2014-86.
Municipal order approving the career path advancement of Charles W. Stewart to the position of Operations Technician 1 in the Public Works Department.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. Febo.
One of the good programs we have is what's called a career ladder in the Public Works Department, in which people are hired in at a labor position and work through a series of protocols to increase their skills. We're happy tonight to report to you that Charles Stewart has gone through the various trainings and is here to claim his Operations Tech title. I believe Charles Stewart is here. Charles?
Charles, congratulations to you. Doing a lot tonight with personnel. Good job. Thanks for working hard at it. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-87.
Municipal order approving the appointment of James Thomas to the Warren County Board of Assessment Appeals, also known as the Local Board of Property Tax Appeals.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. These are appointments to our local boards, and several of them are coming up for renewal or appointment. The first one is the Assessment Appeals. It's very specified. There's only like 20 people in the whole county that qualify for it, and Mr. Thomas has agreed to do it. The next 3, Ms. Sarver at the Housing Authority has been there, I think, since the Housing Authority began. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah, pretty close.
And she'd like to continue. Dr. Deere for the Code Enforcement Board will go into his second term, and then Mary Carpenter will be on the Board of Adjustments, replacing Al Kalin, who requested that he finish his term and go back to work. So for those next 4. Any other discussion on the first one, which is property tax appeals? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. And Municipal Order 2014-88.
Municipal order approving the reappointment of Hilda Sarver to the Housing Authority of Bowling Green.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Denning. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-89.
Municipal order approving the reappointment of Dr. Randy Deere to the City of Bowling Green Code Enforcement Board.
So move.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-90.
Municipal order approving the appointment of Mary E. Carpenter to the City County Board of Adjustments.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes, and congratulations to all four, and thank you for their service to the community. So sometimes it's a pretty taxing ordeal to go through those. Municipal Order 2014-91.
Municipal order approving amendments to the Administrative Personnel Policy and Procedures Manual for classified employees.
So move.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. Febo.
Our relationship with our employees and their benefits is memorialized and codified in what is known as the Administrative Personnel Policy and Procedure. This is a fluid document that changes and gets amended every number of years. Michael Grubbs sunshine to you at a work session some of the changes that we feel are recommended. There's a summary in your packet. Mike's here again if you would like to hear from him, but if not, we recommend your approval.
Yeah, we had a work session on this. Does anybody have any additional questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-92.
Municipal order authorizing contract extension for annual demolition of structures and site clearance services, bid number 2013-32, with Fletcher Excavation LLC of Smith Grove, Kentucky.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Waltrip. Mr. Febo.
Last year, we went out to a bid to ask for demolition services and mowing services combined. We received a low bid from Fletcher Excavating for a 2-year contract, renewable each year. We're here tonight to ask you to allow us to exercise the second year of our contract with them. They're used primarily by code enforcement to remove problem structures, to do environmental testing remediation when needed, and also to do some mowing. Brent is here if you have any questions.
Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance BG 2014, number 9.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning a tract of land containing 17.22 acres from AG Agriculture to HB Highway Business located at 5756 Russellville Road, presently owned by Burke Family LLC.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
Yeah, item number 12 and 13 are in the same family. As is your protocol, Steve Hunter is here to address any questions or to give an overview if you would like.
Any comments or questions? I know we've all had the minutes and the record from the planning and zoning to review. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 2014, number 10.
Ordinance rezoning real estate. Ordinance rezoning a tract of land containing plus or minus 0.23 acre from HB Highway Business to RM4 multifamily residential located at 1504 Parkside Drive, presently owned by Gabriel Weaver, John Hammers, and Zachary Williams.
So move.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo. Any comments on it?
No.
Any questions or discussion?
You know, Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I don't think Steve Hunter really likes it when we don't call him to say a few words. I mean, I really think he gets upset about it, and so we need to sometime, if we have a question, bring him up to the front and ask him.
If you got a question?
Not tonight.
Not tonight, me either.
I can write them out for you guys ahead of time.
Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-93.
Municipal order approving and authorizing out-of-town travel expenses for City Manager Kevin D. DeFebo to tour worksite health clinics in Covington, Kentucky.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Denning. Mr. DeFebo.
This is a comment. This is a ministerial action by you, but one of the more successful collaborations we have with our employees is the health committee. we're always looking for ways to save the city money with our health costs. So we took a tour to Northern Kentucky to look at an exciting new initiative being done by a number of city and county governments up there to have their own worksite health clinic. We're in the first throes of doing the due diligence on that, and we would like to let you know about that later.
And you'll be preparing a response or a presentation at
Yes,
some
at
point?
retreat.
Okay, okay. All right. Any comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-94.
Municipal order approving recommendation from the Bowling Green Area Convention and Visitors Bureau to distribute $119,084 of transient room taxes to the Kentucky Softball Association Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Denning. Mr. DeFebo.
Thank you, Mayor. We allow 3% of all the room tax collected on the hotel next to the convention center to go to the Tourism Bureau to distribute for projects that will foment further tourism and hotel stay in the community. Vicki Fitch is here tonight to request on behalf of her board $119,084 of that money, which they already have, but needs your approval to serve a public purpose. It might be helpful for the TV audience to have Vicki come up and give a brief overview. Would that be helpful?
Brief overview. Ms. Fitch, come right on up.
Thank you, Mayor, City Commission, Mr. DeFebo. Yes, we are very happy to have this request. This does put us in a position to be able to continue to attract all the great softball tournaments that we've been getting, especially from the Amateur Softball Association, ASA. They generally we have over 20 of those annually. The championship tournaments are now requesting and some requiring that we have the live stream capabilities in a pretty complex way. I have Chris Coomer here with me from Warren County Parks and Recreation. If there are any specific questions that you might have on details of that, but the Kentucky Softball Association will work very closely with Warren County Parks to get this where we need it to be in order to continue to attract these tournaments.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't mind, Mrs. Fitch, if you'll explain to the citizens watching, why would a project like this come before the City Commission? Because you're talking about a Warren County park. Explain that, please.
Well, we are a joint city-county agency, our Convention and Visitors Bureau is, and so everything is done jointly. And this is a particular fund of money that is set aside separate from our general operating fund. And when a request comes initially to our board, and if it is recommended by our board to continue on, it comes to both Municipal Court and City Commission for the final approval.
That's,
that-
and that's because the
help?
hotel motel tax is
Yeah.
countywide, so
Yes,
we jointly approve.
it is city and county, throughout our city and county, yes.
Yes, sir.
Might want to add, even though the improvement is outside the city, our city hotels and motels will probably benefit from increased activity. Is that correct?
Absolutely, they will.
Good question. Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Fitch. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-95.
Municipal order amending the City of Bowling Green Economic Development Annexation Incentive Policy.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
As we move through the implementation of this policy, we discovered that we could improve it. One way to do that would be to allow contiguous properties next to the annexation target areas to be also included. That was one suggestion. The other was to increase the amount of time or years that one could use to take the incentive from 5 up to 10. You still will get 5, but you're allowed up to 10 under this amendment to trigger that 5 years of tax incentive. Mayor, you want to add anything to this, or?
I think you got
Bill?
it covered.
Okay.
Mr. Denning.
Mr. Febo,
Yes.
let me ask.
Yes.
Let me give this particular example
Okay.
because many years ago, we had something I think similar to what you're wanting to implement now. in this particular example, I have property contiguous to the city limits of Bowling Green.
Okay,
I have 500 acres.
okay,
I want to continue to farm my property.
okay.
I'm not planning on development anyway soon. Kids and grandkids may, but right now, I'm going to continue to farm.
Right.
But I want to be in the city of Bowling Green. What do I do?
Come on in. We'll take you. All you do is submit a
My
request.
tax rate though. Let's talk about it. What is my tax rate going to be versus what I'm paying now?
I don't want to give wrong information, so it might be wise to have Jeff speak to the numbers. Is that
I
okay,
didn't think
Joe?
I'd have to talk tonight, sorry.
Huh?
He didn't think you have to
I
talk
didn't
tonight.
think I would have to talk tonight, so hang on just a second.
We're pulling him out of the bullpen.
Yeah, you got to come on out, Jeff.
Most of that gets handled at the PVA office. What they do is they look at the land. It's more complex than we think, but they look at the land, they see if there's any structures on it, they see how much is being farmed, that sort of thing, and then they declare or certify an ag exemption of that land. So the taxable value, if it's truly farmland, the taxable value gets the ag exemption, which knocks down the taxable value, and they're still paying the standard real estate rate for the city would be the 20.6 cents per hundred.
To give you
So
one
the
example.
key,
Now, let me finish. Let me make one more comment.
okay.
If once they start building and putting structures, then all that changes at the PVA side.
Yes, that's what I was getting ready to get to. As long as I continue to do what I'm doing now, which is farming, are they listening?
Can I give you an example?
Yes.
The big property owner that has tentatively agreed to come in the Area 5 that we're looking at, it's about 500 acres, and his tax bill will go up $1,800 for those 500 acres.
Go up,
Another the city taxes will be $1,800 on that 500 acres because he's farming it. Now, if
Why?
he had a house, it would be 20.6 cents per
Right.
$100,000 value.
That's the distinction I want to make and
Mm-hmm.
make sure people understand. Because as I said, this did happen several years ago, where it's a good-sized farm in between a major development, and we had these same issues to come up. As to whether or not, if I still farm, is my tax rate going to be the same versus if I develop it in between the other development, what is the rate going to be?
Well, when I started looking at this a couple years back, when we looked at annexation, we found where we had a 1.5 cent rate on our books or in our ordinance that really never applied because the PVA was already writing down the taxable value based on a lot of these different specifications in the KRS. So again, your question is how do they determine it, or?
No, my question is, as long as I continue to farm and I want to be in the city limits, is my tax rate going to change?
No, as long as you continue to farm, they're going to the PVA would keep that ag exemption on that piece of property, and that would lower your taxable value of that farmland, and you would continue to pay whatever rate was put on the real estate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But you still pay a little bit of city tax, but
Yeah.
just very, very little bit.
You're paying 20.6 cents on whatever the PVA assesses that farmland at, which is always a pretty significant discount compared to other real estate, if it's truly farmable land producing crops, that sort of thing. But there's a lot of different hoops that they look at on the PVA side. I was shown what all they look at. It's kind of multi-layered, but it's a little more complicated than I thought. So that's the short of it.
That helps.
Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes?
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal Order 2014-96.
Municipal order approving and authorizing the mayor to execute the third amended and restated lease agreement with Crawdaddy Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as 440 Main, related to lease of city sidewalk and 3 parking spaces.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Denning. Mr. DeFebo.
One of the more viable businesses on the square is 440 Main. They have, in the summers and good weather, they try to expand their entertainment zone to out on the sidewalk, and they often use parking spaces to have a band play for those who are enjoying the outdoor weather and entertainment. We thought it was important to put those 3 parking spaces under the lease, given they create a liability for the city. There's been some high-profile cases recently, and we thought it would be prudent for us to include these as part of the lease to help indemnify our risk. Gene, you want to add to that?
No, I think, like I said, we instigated this one, particularly due to the incident not too long ago in Austin. I think the lady lost control of a car and went through a sidewalk event like this. And we thought we need to have liability protection clearly on their use of the parking spaces.
Other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal order 2014-97.
Municipal order approving and authorizing the mayor to execute grant of easement near intersection of Ken Bale Boulevard and Trey Court with Farmers Investment Company Incorporated, related to placement of commercial signs.
So moved.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
A number of times, new developments approach the city about placing needed signage on cities right away to help advertise their businesses. We did a similar thing on on Gary Farms development, and tonight we're here from requests from those, particularly Cabela's, who's going to want to take an easement on our right-of-way. Jane's looked at this and put together a municipal order. You want to add anything?
Public Works, they looked at the site as well. I think they were acceptable at the site. And if you want to make somebody speak, Tad Pardue is here tonight, and on behalf of the developers, if you have any questions as well.
This is just a consolidated shopping center sign, which
Yes.
lists those that are back in there so people don't have to hunt quite so
Yeah,
hard.
very, very similar to what we did in Gary Farms. They just needed a commercial sign visible from the street.
Much smaller. Much smaller sign. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Municipal order 2014-98.
Municipal order assuming ownership and maintenance responsibility for a portion of Mount Victor Lane right-of-way at the intersection of Brightway Drive from the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Walter, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet recently paved a sliver of Mount Victor Lane, which used to be Kentucky 234. They've asked us, since they no longer use this road much for state businesses purposes, if we would take it into our domain. Since they paved it, we are open to taking it into our domain. Jeff is here if you have any question, but it's generally consistent with our policy to accept ownership if the state first makes it benign for us cost-wise. So this seems like a good deal for both of us and the residents who live there.
Any comments or questions? Just want to make sure I'm not looking at the map upside down. I should have asked this beforehand. This is on the Briarwood side going down towards the retention basin. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Yeah.
What happened on this? There's 2 houses there, and the roadway was a mess, and so we found out it was supposed to be state maintained. So they end up, of course, paving it and then giving it to us. But this has been going on for a couple of years for the property owner. So this solves a problem for at least a couple of our citizens. I want to thank Jeff for working with Greg with the state highway department and getting that done. I will. I'm only kidding. But you did a lot. Not to be facetious, but you did a lot working that where, again, they'd pave it and we would consider taking it in, so.
Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 2014-11.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance amending Chapter 3, Water and Sewer of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances as proposed by Bowling Green Municipal Utilities and to make other administrative changes.
Second.
Motion by Williams, second by Hill. Mr. Febo, Mr. Gardner's picked
think
up
it'd be
the
helpful
clicker,
if-
so he might be having something to
Mike
say.
Gardner could come forward and just address the issue. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. DeFebo, Mr. Mayor, and City Commissioners. Just want to go through briefly a little bit what we're looking at and why. This is revisions to Chapter 23, which is municipal ordinance for water and wastewater. The water and wastewater industry never stays the same. Regulations change. They're constantly getting more difficult all the time. BGMU must comply with those changing regulations. So what we're proposing here tonight will allow us to be proactive to do just that, keep up with the regulations so that we're in compliance. Just a little bit about the order of things and where these come from. Federal Safe Drinking Water Act, Federal Clean Water Act, passed by Congress back in the 1970s. Governed by and administered by US EPA. It filters down to the state of Kentucky Environmental Cabinet and specifically the Division of Water that comes to us then to enforce as well. These things, these regulations that we're talking about cover water withdrawal permits. On our potable water side, we take water out of the river. We have a permit that governs how we do that and how much we can take out of the river. The way we test and compliance with testing to ensure water quality is safe and that in all respects the water is in good condition. Our laboratory is certified. We have to run the correct procedures and whatnot, and we get certified every year. And risk management planning, interestingly enough, is a certification process under the Clean Air Act, actually. We have chlorine at our facilities, and therefore we have to make sure it's safe. On the wastewater side, we have a NPDES permit. It is issued by the state of Kentucky, so it's actually a KPDES permit. That is what we discharge from our wastewater treatment plant to ensure that it complies with all water quality standards before it goes back in the river. We have industrial pretreatment standards, which we're going to touch on a little bit here, and some specific requirements there. And once again, our laboratory must be certified on the wastewater side. So that's a quick overview of where this is coming from and where we're directed in response to making sure that all of our procedures and ordinances support those efforts. The specific revisions we're bringing to you generally fall into 4 categories. The first one was to create a new water subchapter. Years ago, when the Chapter 23 was initially put together, it was mainly on wastewater side, having to do with industrial pretreatment and governing a lot of our wastewater issues. There are a few elements in there for water, but it is primarily wastewater. Since that time when it was first created, there have been a lot more water issues that have come up, and we felt it much cleaner and prudent for the public and to administer from our standpoint if we split out the water issues separate. So we have recommended a subchapter 23-4 that consolidates the drinking water issues. That moves what is in Chapter 23-3 includes the existing fire hydrant, water shortage provisions. Those get moved over to 23-4 and several new sections. We have included in the revisions before you some modifications to the water shortage provisions. Our water withdrawal permit I mentioned a moment ago has been changed. We have some different conditions in there. So when we get into drought conditions, that happens periodically, we have some different criteria we have to adhere to. The modifications we have support those changes so that we can be responsive and show good faith effort to respond during drought conditions under our permit. The new elements that are going into Section 23-4 include cross-connection control, fire line metering, powers of inspection, and some other prohibitions on improper use of the system. Cross connections are situations where there's a possibility, let's say, that a fire control system or a industrial process could backflow through a valve or through piping configurations and contaminate the water supply. It can happen in residential, industrial, and commercial. So this is a program. It's kind of soft with the state. There are some regulations out there. State hasn't really pressed this. We haven't been inspected on this lately, but there are provisions, and we want to be proactive and get out ahead so that we don't have any contamination events from cross connections. Fire line metering is essentially a lot of our fire lines to downtown and other facilities were put in many years ago to support the fire department with sprinkler systems and what have you. Unfortunately, a lot of those fire lines don't have any meters, and so if the properties, the industry, whatever, has a leak, we could lose a great deal of water before anybody finds that. So we have some provisions in there to allow us to do some metering and work with the community to modify that. Now, we're not going to go in and start hammering people on fees on that, but we do need to have some protection, and it really goes sort of hand in hand with that cross-connection control program. Powers of inspection largely support those other couple of elements there so that we have the right to go in and work with businesses and industries on those things. And also there are some provisions in case of improper use, if we find problems with cross connections, with fire lines, that we have some actions that we can follow up on. Largely that's a proactive with commercial establishments and industries, but sometimes we do need a stick. So the fourth element is to establish a fats, oil, and grease program, also known as FOG. It is a comprehensive approach to our FOG issues. I want to be real clear on this. We're not trying to invite ourselves in with more regulations to industries, and this comes to a lot of restaurants and other food establishments we have in Bowling Green. We are trying to be proactive, though, and I'll show you a couple of slides here in just a moment that this is one that could bite us pretty quickly and pretty hard if we're not careful because of grease and oils going into the collection system causing overflows. So we are trying to stay ahead and avoid any state, federal enforcement actions in that regard. Mr. Denning told me no pictures, but I had to bring one for you, actually two here. What you see here on the left is a photograph of a grease interceptor, a grease trap, if you will. It's an in-ground interceptor. It was at a local restaurant. I won't say who. But clearly it's not working. What you see caked on top there is grease that is going through the interceptor. It's not being removed properly. The pipe in the center there is actually the discharge pipe that goes to the municipal sewer. The photograph on the right is a picture of that manhole that receives waste from this establishment. And you can see it is just crusted up with all kinds of grease and buildup in the bottom of it. This is what we want to be careful of, because if that grease goes down line, it can clog the lines. It will combine with baby wipes and other things that people discharge and cause a real blockage. You might have heard one on the news here several months ago in London, England. They called it the Fatberg. It was 16 tons. Their sewers are a little larger than ours in Bowling Green, but a 16-ton Fatberg of grease and wipes and various materials that just congealed together and blocked off the sewer. Obviously, we won't get that big, but it's all relative. If these types of materials, the grease in particular, goes down, we can have overflows, and that's what gets us in trouble with EPA and Division of Water. So our FOG proposal system establishes guidelines that we can work proactively with the restaurants and with the other FOG generators so that we can prevent that. It's very proactive. We have done this in collaboration. We hired a consultant that's worked with a lot of other communities, Nashville, Louisville, Clarksville, Sewer District number 1 in Northern Kentucky, and on and on. There's a whole long list of other communities that have established FOG-type programs to administer and control a little bit. So we're not way behind, but we're not at the front edge of the pack either. We have learned from these other communities what their experiences were, good and bad, and we've kind of modeled after the good parts of that. We have also been engaged in with the local associations, with the Restaurant Association, with the Bowling Green Lodging Association, very closely with Bowling Green, Warren County Health Department, and some other stakeholders. So all of our actions here take into account that. It's been very proactive. We've actually spent a couple of years getting to this point. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions you might have on our proposal.
Go ahead.
Are you anticipating the start of an industrial pretreatment program here?
We have an existing
You
industrial
already have
treatment.
one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
This is part of that to support
Okay.
that in that regard.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure I did not overlook it. Are you all proposing that restaurants use certain grease haulers? Are you requiring them to use a particular one, or are they still going to have the ability to select their own?
That was one of the elements that we discussed in the development of this. Some communities have gone to a sole source, not a franchise, but sort of a franchise type operation. Those frankly are easier to administer from the municipal standpoint because you only have one entity. In talking with the restaurant associations, with lodging association, we've learned that there are a lot of restaurants, whatnot, that have existing contracts and they can't just pull out of that. We believe that there would be some economy of scale, and that through that type of process, we could probably bring them some lower pumping rates for their septic, but we're not going to require that. If we have a body of restaurants that are interested in that and there's a good process to do that, yes, we will. But we'll not tell somebody that they have to. What we will require, though, is that they can use their own hauler, but we want to get the hauler certified so that they know how to handle it, so that they're pumping them completely down and following the standard protocols of the industry.
Great, thank you. Once this is implemented, will you continue to work with these groups?
Absolutely. This has been a very proactive process, and you know, we came to them and said, yeah, well, we're the government, we're here to help, and they didn't really believe us, but they gave us some great feedback, and we want to continue that. We believe strongly through the entire industrial pretreatment program to listen and to work with them to achieve the goals that everybody needs to meet, and they've been very receptive to that.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mike, what do you have now that says that a certain restaurant has taken care of their grease by having it hauled away on a certain day, et cetera, and so, do you receive anything at all saying that this has been being done on a regular basis?
And that's part of the problem. We don't have anything to help direct how frequently and how it's done. We have in the existing ordinance essentially two things. There is an oil and grease limit of 100 milligrams per liter that we can grab samples and measure. We also have some general language that nothing that causes damage or deleterious to the collection of the treatment system can be discharged to the sewer. Those are difficult. They're a little soft and fuzzy. So what we've learned from the other communities that have developed FOG programs is a more specific program to work with the restaurants. Part of the problem is that a lot of the restaurants really don't know what's going on either because their tanks get pumped in the middle of the night at 2 or 3 a.m. because they don't want customers there, and they have people in their parking lot, so usually these interceptors are out in the lot. So they may come in and, yeah, it was supposed to be pumped last night, but very few of them actually go out and lift the hatch and look. So they're not sure really what's happening. This gives them some ability to work with their pumper to say, hey, here's the standard that we need you to abide by. And it gives the criteria so that everybody's doing it the same way.
Any other comments or questions? Appreciate the work putting this together. I know it's hard as a utility to make sure everybody's covered, but getting with the people that we're dealing with, I think, is very important.
Thank you. A lot of utility business is out of sight and out of mind, and sometimes it's a little dirty, but we appreciate your support.
Best to keep it that way.
Yes.
The less we talk about it, the better. Any other comments? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes?
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. First reading of ordinance 2014-12.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances. Ordinance amending Chapters 2 Administration and 27 Property Code of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances to adopt recommended changes from the Citizens Committee established to review the city's property code and changes recommended by the Neighborhood and Community Services Department.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
Thank you, Mayor. About a year ago, we commissioned the Neighborhood and Community Services Department to aggregate interest from various communities across the city to find out what exactly was a nuisance for the neighborhoods. They went through a deliberative process. It took about a year, and Brent sunshined to you their results. Their recommendations, in essence, didn't provide much relief to what a nuisance was, and kind of defaulted to the idea that the Code Enforcement Board is going to need to determine when a problem is a problem for the property values in the neighborhood. Brent's committee was able to make a number of other recommendations concerning compost piling. Would you like Brent to give an overview again of that, or you've had enough of it?
I don't think it's necessary unless somebody has a specific question about that part of it. I don't think it's necessary for the overview.
Okay.
Does anybody have any comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Has there been any other talk about redefining truly as far as the yard art and overgrowth? I know we discussed that in the work session. Are we going to train code enforcement more? What are we going to do?
Here recently, we've just kind of been focusing on what do you set that standard as? Because it's all comparative and it's all relative. And so how could you say that this standard is effective across the city? So we've talked about it internally, but really if we're going to talk about it, I'd rather separate it from the process that we started a year ago and talk about that as a separate issue unto itself.
So we can continue this?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things, because we could talk about it for 10 years and I don't know that we're going to come up with an answer. So I don't want to delay the recommendations that the Citizen Committee provided to us previously just because of our inability to define the standard. And that's something that, not only Bowling Green has to undertake. After looking at a lot of different communities, we didn't find where anybody else had set that standard or that comparative standard, really.
I appreciate that. I truly believe it needs to be looked at neighborhood. Some things that are accepted in some neighborhoods are not accepted in others. So
The
how
code
do we work with
enforcement
that? Yes, code enforcement's going to take care of that.
is going to be the arbiter of that. That's
Okay.
why you appoint them, right?
Well, other thing what Mr. DeFebo is talking about is the board. The board to be the arbitrator of what that is.
What the community standards are. We have no other arbiter. We tried to define it community-wise. Sorry.
Go ahead.
We're trying to define it community-wise, and it was impossible to find. So we said, okay, the Code Enforcement Board knows community standards. Let's continue to use that process.
So are we going to encourage them to take a more active, stronger?
Well,
view
what
of this?
Mr. DeFebo and I talked about today was, how do we get from the point of, okay, it's not a direct violation now to the code board, and that's something we have to work out the mechanisms of. How do we get from point A to point B? Because point B is kind of this floating target out here, with no clear path on how to get there. So that part we still have to kind of decide out, but that's not really an ordinance thing. That's more of an internal policy thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this may end up being a starting point for us in some stages of this, that at some point in the future we may be able to get a little better handle on taste and acceptance. I know that's hard to define, but
So they're all relative.
They are relevant.
And that's what makes it so difficult is they change based on who you talk to.
But, you know, I would hope that the citizens of our community would realize that we as Bowling Green, Kentucky, take great pride in our community, and we would hope that their property, their personal property, would reflect that same attitude. We would hope.
Any other questions related to 27?
Can you give an overview of 22 while you're up there?
22.
The next one.
Chapter
2?
No, the next item on the
Next item on the agenda.
I'll try to give a brief overview of that. To let you kind of understand the other side of this work group, what started this was there were some changes in KRS. They changed some of the lien priorities for nuisances, and Gene can talk about the specific KRSs in much better detail than I can. But what happened was we had to define what was nuisances, and it was pretty straightforward. In our property maintenance code in chapter 27, we kind of said, okay, these are all nuisances because we treat them as nuisances. What else that does is that opens up to the other type of civil enforcement actions that the city takes, and that's where you see that whole long list of chapters that the city does. That's where you get into stormwater, streets, sidewalks, public trees, all the other things that the city has a civil enforcement action on. And Code Enforcement Board serves as the authority over that, the review authority. So, they're not only just hearing code enforcement cases, they're hearing parking tickets, animal control, all these other things. So what we did was, and Gene can correct me if I step out of line here, was tried to streamline all the ordinances to reflect a singular list of enforcement proceedings and put those in Chapter 2. So the goal was to, instead of having the same 5 paragraphs in 25 chapters, just have everything reference Chapter 2. So that's kind of where you see all these numbers coming up. Really the goal of the work group was on 27, but then that led to the changes in 2, 5, 6, and I can't remember what all the numbers are, but you have them before you. So that's kind of how they're tied together.
So it's a ministerial cleanup.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. My question didn't have anything to do with the committee review. I'd alerted the city attorney about the comments I had on, and apparently these were authorized by state law, but I'm talking about, see if you look at page 3, the bottom, on the vacancy on a code enforcement board, it allows them, if we don't fill it within 60 days, to pick their own board member. Is that required by state law or is that permissive?
In 65.8811, I think our language is almost word for word with theirs. It says any vacancy on a code enforcement board shall be filled within 60 days by the executive authority subject to approval of the legislative body. If a vacancy is not filled by the executive authority within 60 days, the remaining members of the code enforcement board shall fill the vacancy.
So it's mandatory, it's not permissive.
Well, that's what the statute says, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. You want to do your other topic first, and I'll address both of them if you want.
Okay, and then the other one is on page 5 in the middle of the page, paragraph B, and it apparently authorizes a single hearing officer rather than the entire board. And I know that neither of those were discussed at the time we talked about Chapter 27. It's not really part of that at all, but we want to make sure that. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, well, 2 things. One, the first one you talked about, we've had that for years and years because that's what statute says, so that language has been here for a long time. The second part about the hearing officer, those were relatively recent changes in the statute, I think 2011. So when we started looking back through these, we thought we'd go back in and bring our statute basically up to what we thought was compliance with and current with the state statute. I mean, probably more than you want to hear, but the general rule is with home rule, cities can do pretty much what they can do, but we're still subject to what the state says we can do. The state still regulates cities, and by law, what we can't do something that's in conflict with the state statute. So I guess the question is, if we don't have this language, is that now a conflict with state statute? I'm going to go back to a little bit about what Brent was talking about. Because we, up until probably early to mid-90s, every city ordinance basically was a criminal violation. And then the state came in, adopted legislation, told cities, okay, now you don't have to make everything criminal. If you want to do some civil violations, we will let you do that. And there was 65, Chapter 65 was one of the first statutes that did that. We started with code enforcement, with property code, and then over the years we kept moving more and more things away from criminal. And as Brent said, every time we did that, we would basically go in that chapter and repeat all what we did. So now we're moving all that stuff back in together. But particularly in the last few years, there's been an issue pop up, particularly on code preferences, on lien preferences. Under 65, you probably don't care about all this stuff. Under 65, when we file a lien, our lien takes priority whenever we file it. So what's ahead of us is ahead of us. So it means a lot of times we have no need, or it's almost impossible to enforce a lien because we got mortgages, we got taxes, we've got everything else ahead of us. So it makes it economically not feasible to try to pursue that. There is another chapter, though, in state statute, Chapter 82, that deals with nuisances. That basically says if you do that, then you have to create a board. It doesn't go through all the detail that 65 does. It just says you shall have an appeals board. But that one gives us priority on the lien. It says that lien now takes priority among all liens except for taxes, which are still first. But now we jump ahead of everybody else. That was one of the main impetuses for us to make some of these changes to try to get priority on our liens. To be honest with you, we tried to get KLC 3 or 4 years ago to get 65 amended. And I guess I'm not sure they thought they would be able to do that, so that one didn't go through. So we're making some of these changes to now adopt both of these statutes within our code enforcement, Chapter 65 and 82, because everything we do under civil violations is not a nuisance. I mean, floodplain, I'm not sure, most of these we try to define what we think is a nuisance and what we're not. So we thought we needed to keep both chapters in this ordinance, 65 and 82. But now we're going to combine that board for both statutes. Again, 82 doesn't have any language, 65 does. And I think the mayor is concerned about this language. I can't sit here and tell you, that somebody, one, is everyone challenges on those things if that language is not here. Or two, whether some courts somewhere are going to say, well, that now conflicts with the state statute because state statute says you've got to have this. I think both these issues to me are relatively minor things. I don't think anybody's going to jump up and down. I hope we always appoint members within 60 days, so that never happens. But I can see a possibility sometime if we've got a mayor and the rest of you don't like him, that could happen, potentially. The other one on the hearing officer, it doesn't come in and say you shall do that. It just basically authorizes the code enforcement board if they choose to use the hearing officer route instead of the full board. I don't think we've ever talked to our board about, or David Bryant, their attorney, or David Vladek, their attorney, whether they have any interest in ever doing that or not. So far, they've never expressed any interest in ever going to a hearing officer versus the full board anyway. So I guess kind of cut to chase, I'm not too sure I consider either one of those two things to be major enough that if we were ever challenged on them, some court's going to say, well, now you're in violation of state statute because your ordinance conflicts with state law. So I think, probably if y'all want to remove those, I'm not sure I really see a problem with doing that. But the language comes straight out of 65 in both of them.
Do we have any of the other boards that we have in place have their own self-perpetuating language in them?
I don't remember any.
There might be. I can't identify
Steve,
specifically
you're
which
shaking your
ones,
head.
but there are some.
I'm sorry?
There are some that do have some language in our code. I can't identify at this point which ones they are specifically, but there are some.
Do you know of any in your? Right, that's not a city board, though.
I'd have to look it up, but I can follow up with that.
Yeah, I can't name anyone because I don't.
Yeah.
It's just, the thing that bothers me about that is that whoever is on the board, I think, deserves the support of the commission and not feel like to be the stepchild on there because, a group couldn't agree on setting somebody forward. So I think every board member deserves the support of the board of commissioners.
Well, in 20 years we've never had that issue, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. But.
No, I guess that's true. But the other one where we assign a hearing officer, that appears in my mind to assign a matter of policy that the Board of Commissioners has in place, that a hearing board, a group of 5 people to hear that, as opposed to a single individual. And
Well, I think that hearing officer is one appointed, would actually be appointed by the Code Enforcement Board. It would be their decision whether to appoint a hearing officer instead of somebody else. I mean, make sure you understand that. That would be their choice and not anybody else's.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a policy from the Board of Commissioners to decide whether or not those should be heard by, more than one individual. And I'm of the opinion that 5 opinions are better than one, most of the time.
So are you saying that the individual would have to come before this body for discipline?
No, this is for code enforcement. I'm just saying that it ought to be the full code enforcement board and not just one of them that get to decide the cases that come up there. I mean, that's the way we have created the code enforcement board. Now, if there's an issue or an item that I'm not seeing that a single hearing officer may be better, I'd be happy to.
So the hearing officer is a member of the board, of that board?
It doesn't have to be, but it can be. It gives them the ability to appoint one of their own members if they choose to do that. And one of the reasons, maybe not quite as much for us, but and possibly, I'm not sure the reason it is. Some of these towns, I think, one thing, have trouble coming up with 5 people to sit on the board. Probably have trouble coming up with 5 people every month to get together when they have to get together to get a quorum. That may have been what helped lead this, the idea that some towns have trouble getting 5 people. Now, you talk about a town of 600 people, it may be hard to get 5 people appointed to a board like that. That's not an issue we have here.
Anybody have any comments or questions? If you don't want me to, go ahead.
So what is your suggestion?
Well, I was thinking about two things, and y'all help me with guidance on this. One is to remove the language that the board could be self-perpetuating if the Board of Commissioners couldn't agree on somebody. And then separately would be to remove the language that would allow them to not only have a single hearing officer, but it should be the full code enforcement board.
It's like 3 or 4 places scattered throughout, I think. But
Yeah.
Should we substitute other language, though? I mean,
Well, in my discussions with Gene, I don't think there was any substitute. It was just a removal of those. But it's, I'm approaching it from a policy standpoint, philosophical on one, I guess, is that whoever's appointed to the board should have the support of the Board of Commissioners, no matter who's recommending them or who's voting on them.
And that the full board would be the hearing
officer
group, singular, I guess, a
Right.
hearing officer per se.
Right, and I guess it could be as few as 3 on our 5-member board, because that would be a majority, just like there'd be 3 here. But having one individual hear it on behalf of
Board.
the entire community,
Well, I think the idea is the hearing officer will then make recommendations to the board. The board will make the final decision, but they won't hear the case. There'll be just a hearing officer that will hear the case.
But the hearing officer can be an outsider. Doesn't have to be a member.
Does not have to be, no. It's whoever the board appoints as the hearing officer. Does not have to be a member.
Can we table this and
Yeah, I was gonna
and study
suggest
it and come up with some different alternatives
Kevin
for you
got a
all to
good
look
point.
at? Would you be open to that?
that'd be fine if y'all want to look. I mean, is it something we have to do tonight, Brent? Okay. Well, then I'll move the table to give them time
You want to table both of
review.
them, then do them
Right,
as
pass.
mayor?
I don't think the second one has any issues in it.
Okay.
Are you also asking for Katie and Jean to go back and see if there's similar language in some other places
Yeah,
that we need to deal with?
Yeah, on the self-perpetuating thing, if
We do
there-
that.
if there is, if you could find out. So, it may be that we will need to leave it in, but
Okay.
all right, so
You're just-
we're just moving to table
Yeah.
the first one. The second one is just putting all of
Yeah,
the
it's ministerial.
stuff, right? Is that
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
So I'll move to table
So,
ordinance 2014, number 12, to the next session. We have time next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Staff will do some work.
And Joseph,
And
you saying 14,
12.
dash 12, yes, sir.
Item
We're
12.
tabling that. I'm making the motion, and you made the second. Is that correct, Joe?
yes,
All right. Please call the roll.
Denning.
yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it. Next is first reading of ordinance 2014, number 13.
Ordinance amending Code of Ordinances, ordinance amending Chapters 5, Animals, 6, Building Regulations, 8, Cemeteries, 13, Health, 15, Business and General Regulations, 21, Streets and Sidewalks, 26, Public Trees, and 28, Flood Damage Prevention of the City of Bowling Green Code of Ordinances to move civil citation enforcement proceedings to Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances and to make other administrative amendments.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. I think we've had it adequately explained. Is there any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
Yes. And we have the late file, which is Municipal Order 2014-99.
Municipal order approving and authorizing conveyance of property by Intermodal Transportation Authority Incorporated to benefit Quiver Ventures LLC, approving and authorizing the execution of the partial cancellation of lease and ground lease, and approving and authorizing the execution of a payment in lieu of taxes agreement among the City of Bowling Green, Warren County Board of Education, and Quiver Ventures LLC.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Hill, second by Williams. Mr. DeFebo.
Mayor, you're the sponsor. Would you like to give an overview, or would you like Meredith Robinson?
She waited to the very end. Let Ms. Robinson come up and tell us all about it. As briefly as you'd like to.
Briefly.
Briefly. This was the project that we announced, a week ago, Friday. This is our project merger, which is now Quiver Ventures LLC. $150 million investment in the Transpark with 80 jobs paying $65,000 annual salary. So very good project. If you'll remember last year, Bill Stein's investment was $120 million, and that was the largest new capital investment in the state of Kentucky. So we're hoping to repeat this year. So, we appreciate your support.
Good job.
And you're gonna have how many jobs at 65,000?
The average salary is $65,000. It's 80 jobs, and that's for
At
their
first.
first phase.
What are you asking us to do tonight?
We're asking you to approve the donation of 50.61 acres. For this project, basically, they have options on 2 properties. The first is 50.61 acres, which is what we're talking about tonight. They also have an option on an additional 39 acres that we would require a like investment, so this could be a potentially huge project out there. And also, the pilot payment in lieu of taxes agreement. They are going to do an industrial revenue bond issue through the county for the facility itself. And so we've negotiated a pilot agreement with them. The county passed it last week, and so we're asking you to approve it this week.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
Meredith, how many states? I know we are very fortunate that it's in Bowling Green and very fortunate it's in Kentucky as well.
Absolutely.
How kind of let the citizens know other areas? Or
They looked, actually, this is a joint venture between a very large French Constellium aluminum producer as well as a Japanese, and then Tri-Arrows, which is a U.S. affiliate. And so they actually looked internationally first, and then they decided to look within the U.S. We competed against multiple states and finally came down to Kentucky, Ohio, and Ravenswood, West Virginia, which is where they also have a facility. And then so finally then it was narrowed down to Bowling Green, Kentucky.
What was, Meredith, if you can, and if it's something you can't say, what was the breaking point, or what was the selling point to get them to go to our Transpark? Were you knowledgeable of any of the other proposals?
Versus other states or versus other areas in Kentucky?
Well,
because we competed for both. We competed for both. Versus other states, we were very competitive tax-wise. This is a very large power user, this company, and also a very large water user. And so having the substation going in out of the Transpark related to the Bill Stein project was very timely. That, if you'll remember, that's a 40 megawatt substation that's expandable to 80. This company alone will use about half the capacity of the first phase of that project. So I mean, having compatible, very competitive utility rates and having access right there in the Transpark to large amounts of utilities was a big selling point for all of us.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I'd just like to compliment the Chamber. Thank you all for pulling all of the agencies together. City government, county government, the utilities, all to make this project happen. You all have done a great job.
Well, thank you very much. Well, we definitely couldn't do it without the support of the City Commission and the Fiscal Court. The fact that this community is so business friendly. We hear it over and over from all the companies that we work with. It's very much appreciated.
Glad to hear it.
All righty then.
Amen. Any other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Denning.
Yes.
Hill.
Yes.
Waltrip.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wilkerson.
And yes, and that's the last item on our agenda. Our next meeting is scheduled for June 3rd, 2014. Thank you for doing it.